Hey guys, check this out. Friend of mine got this beautiful gun, Smith&Wesson Model 52. Don't mind the grips, we already removed the grips. Beautiful gun, it shoots great. The only problem is the trigger was way too light. It should be in about 3 pounds, which is legal for the NRA bullseye. And I just measured the trigger weight with this gauge, and it's 2 pounds. So definitely way too light. The problem is Smith&Wesson 52 is not 1911. So there are several springs, there are several parts that may affect the trigger pull. And it's a little bit more tricky because they don't make this gun anymore. The spare parts are really rare. But we've got this kit from Cylinder and Slide. It has hammer and hammer strut. It has the sear. But what's most important, it has the trigger rebound spring. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and replace the trigger rebound spring and see if that will fix our problem. And it makes it a little bit lighter, a little bit heavier than it is now. And it will make it legal for the NRA bullseye. So let's see if that works. Now, before we begin to work on our guns, let's make sure that the gun is unloaded. And it is unloaded. The chamber is empty. I removed the magazine is empty. Don't put this magazine away, remove it, but don't put it away because we're gonna need it later. I'll explain why. This gun has a magazine disconnect, so we won't be able to check the trigger pull, we won't be able to drop the hammer unless we have the magazine inside. So let's remove the slide first. And to remove the slide, you just align this notch with the slide stop, push it out from the other side, pull it out, and remove the whole top part. And okay, I finally got it removed. Here's our slide. Here's the recoil spring and the recoil rod. Let's put it aside. We're not gonna need it anymore. We're gonna work on frame only. So first thing we need to do, just like on 1911, you see there is a pin that we need to drive out and remove the back strap. So let's use the block. Oh, but before we do that, we need to drop the hammer. You see, it goes right off. So there we go. There we go. Here's the pin. It's pretty much the same as 1911. Okay, let's put this aside like this. All right, now the whole back strap is supposed to come right off, and if it doesn't, that's because there is a spring, main spring here, and it's under a little bit tension. So we need kind of to push this out, and there goes a back strap. Let's wipe the oil. There goes the back strap and the main spring cup. Goes right off. Now, unlike in 1911, here with Model 52, you have the whole side plate that holds the pins for hammer and sear. So we can just push this pin out on the other side, and this whole plate just comes right off. Okay? That's it. Now, here's our hammer. It's very dirty, of course. Okay, now that part was an ejector, and there's a little spring. Let me see if I can focus on it a little bit so that you can see. Kind of. All right, now here comes the tricky part. The sear is right here, and it's also held by a pin that we need to push out. And then the sear just falls out. Here's your sear. Now, I want to show you something. The spring that we need to replace is right here. That's the trigger rebound spring. And in order to reach out to that spring and replace it, we're going to need to remove the drawbar, we're going to need to remove the trigger, we're going to need to remove pretty much everything. It's a complete disassembly of a gun. So, in fact, I'm not sure if we need to remove the magazine catch. Probably won't need that. So here comes the tricky part. This is called trigger stop screw upper part. And you can see it stops the travel of the trigger on its way back, right? Problem is, I really don't want to touch that screw, but without it, we probably won't be able to remove the trigger assembly. Let's try to drive the pin out first and see if that... There is a little detent here. I'm not even sure if I can drive it out. Yeah, Model 52 is a tricky gun. Yeah, I was able to remove that pin too. Okay, let's put it here. There's something we lost, and that's the disconnector. Here's the disconnector. Okay. And for that screw, you're gonna need a Torx wrench. Let's see, it's probably, I should say it's T9, it's the smallest one, that's fine. Okay, so hex wrench did help. It's 5x64 hex wrench, and I was able to screw this guy all the way in, and when I did that, parts just came right off. Here we have a drawbar and a trigger blade and a pin with the spring. Now, I already installed a new spring on this pin. This is the new one, and I have an old one somewhere right here. That's an old one, and it kind of feels like it's lighter than the new one. Now, when you put a spring back on a pin, you would notice that one opening here, one end is wide, and this one is a little tight. So that one should go on a pin first, and you will feel a little click, okay? So now we can put things back together. The trigger blade goes into the frame like that from the top, and it sits right here, as you can see. Okay, the next one is that spring and that pin. Let's put a little drop of oil on it. just in case, and goes in like that. Okay, it is in, and we're gonna need to somehow compress it. But first, let's put the drawbar back in, and that's how it should go. It goes all the way in, and okay, almost there, almost there. Okay, so after a while, I was able to insert this trigger pivot pin back where it belongs. And the way to do it was that I had to secure the frame and device and push on this pin and detent with the punch and basically drive the pin in from the left to the right. That's the way to do it. Now everything is in place. As you can see, it's moving. The trigger is there. The trigger spring is there. The drawbar is there. And I also installed a disconnector. And as you can see here, it rides on a drawbar. There's a little notch in the drawbar, and the disconnector goes right in. All right. So let me move this away. Okay. So now we can insert the sear, and its orientation is not the what is the hooks. That's supposed to be facing up. Okay, and basically this is how it should be. So put it in the frame like so, and it should go underneath that spring. See, there's a spring here, a leaf spring that we don't touch, we don't remove. Okay, and it should be secured by a pin. Let's find a pin. Yeah, that is the sear pin. And insert the pin. Done. And the sear is right there between the disconnectors, between the notches and the sear, and it's pushed down by the spring, by the leaf spring. All right, so far so good. And the next one, we don't have much stuff left. Let's get all the stuff back. That is the ejector. Okay, so we're gonna take this ejector spring, push it all the way in. Yes, now what we need to do is we need to put the hammer in, like so. with that hammer goes the ejector. Should go in here. And it is pushed up by a spring. Now you can install this plate, this side plate. There we go. Okay. So now the ejector is here and it's pushing this connector up. Okay. Let's see. Just checking the functionality. Yep. The hammer drops, the plate drops. Okay. I guess we can now disassemble the back strap. And it's probably going to be a little bit difficult to do, but we'll manage. Okay, so back strap is back in, and now we can drive the pin back inside. Okay, pin is all the way in. And the gun is working. Okay, so now let's check the trigger weight. Of course, I forgot to. 2.5 pounds. That's still not enough. .6. .35. Okay, I think we need to replace here.